Greetings, I'm Laura Schneider, Senior Brand Manager with BECKMAN COULTER Life Sciences. And I'm thrilled to be here with you today to celebrate the launch of this brand new technology, the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer, designed to provide in-depth characterization of nanoparticles at least as small as 40 nanometers. It is here to break the boundaries of extracellular vesicle detection. Thank you for joining us for the live launch of this new member of the CytoFLEX family, the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer. Today is a big day for BECKMAN COULTER Life Sciences, and we're very excited that you're taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. I am joined today by Matthew Goff. He's the product manager for the CytoFLEX platform, and he's going to be telling us a bit more about the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer. Welcome, Matt, and thank you for joining us today. Also, with us today, we have John Tix and Alfonso Blanco. Alfonso is the director of the flow cytometry facility here and is our gracious host today, while John is the flow cytometry director at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, as well as the program director for the Center for Extracellular Vesicle Detection. They're going to discuss their experience with the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer and the capabilities it brings to EV research. At the end of our presentation, we'll answer some questions. We encourage you to ask your questions in the comments below, and we will respond after the broadcast. Okay, let's get started. Matt, can you tell us about why the new CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer was developed?
Thank you for having me here today, Laura. The CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer is the natural evolution of the analytical power we observed early in the development of the CytoFLEX platform. It didn't take long to see that the CytoFLEX platform's instrument sensitivity allowed for the investigation of smaller and dimmer particles than had previously been described on conventional cytometers. Almost immediately, we saw the potential to do even more if we were to design an instrument for this purpose. And it certainly took some time, but we're pleased with the result and proud to offer this powerful new tool to researchers.
A lot of EV researchers might not be familiar with flow cytometry. Why is this a tool they should consider?
EVs are an incredible source of information as indicators of the biological activity in the cells and systems from which they're released. They're also incredibly heterogeneous. Many of the current methods can only give you an average of this heterogeneity. Conversely, the single particle methods in use today can face challenges with ergonomics and reliability. Over the last several years, we've sought out researchers who've shared their challenges in EV analysis and discussed how flow cytometry might address them. Flow cytometry is uniquely positioned to accurately count, determine size, and characterize individual EVs within a heterogeneous sample using one single instrument capable of hosting a variety of methods. We've also learned some really critical lessons from researchers who've already adopted flow cytometry, including our CytoFLEX platform, in their EV research, about the limitations of the technique as well as the workflow complexities on instruments available before today. There are issues with the limited detection, finding a reliable and robust solution, and with learning to operate an instrument and interpret data that could be considered complex by non-experts.
In this context, how does the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer help improve flow cytometry and consequently EV research?
The CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer changes what is possible. It's the first flow cytometry system that enables the analysis of particles at least as small as 40 nanometers triggering on scatter, while simultaneously offering fluorescence and scatter detection flexibility to characterize those particles in detail. When we talk about flexibility, we talk about 6 separate fluorescence channels and 5 scatter channels of detection that open up experimental possibilities. In addition, the CytoFLEX Nano Analyzer is paired with a calibration method to give scientists the tools they need to obtain reliable, repeatable data that can be calibrated into absolute units, allowing researchers a familiar way to experience and analyze data and discern even small differences in the individual particles of a sample. And of course, we've remained faithful to the ease of use experience found in every CytoFLEX instrument that we make.
Thank you, Matt. Before we move on to our guest speakers, let's hear from other researchers who have had the chance to work with our CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer.
Everything about EVs, I feel, is kind of exciting. However, flow cytometers, for the most part, are designed to analyze cells.
One of the biggest limitations to study EVs and nanoparticles, they are all different sizes, and unfortunately we cannot see the smaller population with the current state of the science and current state of the instruments we have available.
I want to have instrumentation that can really see all sizes of particles and be able to characterize them both by count, size, and phenotype.
So the CytoFLEX Nano, at its inception, was an answer to all of the flow cytometry enthusiasts who want to analyze their EVs by flow cytometry in a confident way, in a way that they can consistently know that they're looking at single particle EVs.
The CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer features a lot of different advantages versus a traditional cellularly focused flow cytometer. One of the biggest ones is going to be its sensitivity and its precision of measurement.
As a core facility manager and someone who works with customers a lot, the huge advantage of CytoFLEX Nano will be the ability to characterize efficiently the smaller population of the particles, including phenotype and several channels.
So I want to have instrumentation that really allows people flexibility. The CytoFLEX Nano is a very flexible platform that people can really design their own experiments while being able to really detect those smaller particles.
I can basically see the side scatter performance, fluorescent performance on the same screen and save it and just basically repeat the same experiment again and again, which is like very useful.
I really like that the instrument does automated cleaning instead of manual cleaning where the users would have to load in cleaning solutions. So I really like that that's built into the every sample cleans. I love that.
The software within the system allows you a certain level of confidence without having that prior experience to recognize and troubleshoot, that it will help you figure out what's going on.
What the CytoFLEX Nano is going to do is it's going to open brand new doors to our researchers. It's going to allow them to see, based on different published paradigms, 30, 40, 50% more data in terms of population than what they can currently detect with the available platforms in the market.
Let's move on now to our guest speakers, with whom we are going to hear more about how the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer is making a difference in the study of nanoparticles.
They have a big value for the researchers. So we are trying to go lower and lower to detect those those small events. The problem is that we have limits on the detection of these instruments, and that's why we really need dedicated instruments, that they have more sensitivity to be able to capture the difference between the different populations of extracellular vesicles with more sensitivity.
I think having the 5 side scatters adds a kind of a new dimensionality to the platform that hasn't been there before. In addition, the 6 fluorescence is more than other EV instruments that are dedicated just to this particular methodology. So having those, and especially in the ones that are very common within the research, in papers that we've seen. So, I mean, you can probably attest also, Alfonso, that most of the things you read are using FITCs, PEs, APCs, brilliant violets. So to have these and a few more available to us is amazing.
And as we pointed out, it's not just a scatter. You can also see on the other bivariant plots, we can see fluorescence and a scatter at the same time. And again, the capability of distinguish the different subpopulations of EVs. So it's not just fluorescence, it's not just a scatter, it's not a scatter from one laser, it's the combination of multiple scatters from multiple lasers using multiple colors at the same time.
It's just more.
It's more.
It's just more, which is great. Everybody wants more. Let's go lower, let's see more populations, let's, get more colors. And so I think having that ability to do more, see more, and just have better science is going to change things. It's going to make this field a whole lot easier to get involved in and get positive results.
So QC of an instrument, especially in flow cytometry, where especially now that we're looking at very sensitive analyses, we need to make sure that the performance of the instrument is spot on. We need that. We need to make sure that the data is perfect. Also, we need to make sure that the data is comparable, not just along the different time points of my study.
Taking that into consideration and putting these automatically into the system where almost everything on QC is done automatically for you. Also, I love the fact that it's probably one of the first that put an entire QC package together 4 small particles. And the other things they've done with that is it's made it very easy to follow the methodologies of taking these arbitrary units and putting them into standard units so that you can, like you said, reproduce. You can do it within the machines within your lab, a machine that's down the hall, a machine that's here in Dublin when I'm in Boston. And so we can be sure that our data matches and is very concurrent, and we're not just going, we're not exactly sure what's going on here.
And the other thing is really good on this instrument is a CytoFLEX. We know how the CytoFLEX and sensitivity on the CytoFLEX already by the previous instruments that we have been testing and analyzing for the last few years. We can see sensitivity on this instrument is massive.
Yeah, it's like you said, the CytoFLEX family, so they did keep some of those things. So not only can they look at the size based on their QC and how you can go back in the standardization methods and using this standardized units, but also we can get counts. So we're looking at an instrument that is alleviating a lot of the problems of how many orthogonal methods do I need to prove what I'm doing is correct, where now you can do it on one instrument. All right, so I will start. Having played around with Beckman Coulter instruments for a long time now, starting off with what now they call the legacy MoFlow. It's always been kind of an ease of use things for me. Is teaching somebody how to use it was very easy, straightforward. So, you know, I never saw people struggle with it, right? It was kind of whether you had some flow experience or you had no experience whatsoever. As you know, we get a lot of interns, you get students, and just to have them sit in front and be able to pick it up. And the fun part is then within a very short period of time, they're teaching others. And so it just makes life a whole lot easier. And now the Nano, I mean, based on the same software and how things are laid out within that software, the transition from an LX or an S, which we have both of, or the SRT, it's just gonna be easy. People can just bounce from instrument to instrument depending on their scientific need. And so this just adds more dimensionality, right, to the whole CytoFLEX platform and what people can come to my lab and do. A lot more was thought about ease of use, right? So they started, you could see that, the kind of, you know, evolution of the automation, right? So you have things in the SRT that weren't necessarily there on the S, and then not on the LX, and now on the Nano having most of the QC, you know, automated. Just makes better for reproducibility, right? Because it takes a lot of those things away from, you know, the end user, so they don't have to worry about what they're looking at, what they need, and it's just done for them. And so save some time.
These flow cytometers are taking big cells. We're going smaller and smaller and smaller, so that will allow us more and more data be able to produce, not just to produce, but also to be able to detect and to further characterize. So with the CytoFLEX Nano, we are going even lower. We have more sensitivity. That means that we can resolve nicely those small populations. With the new settings, with the new data that we can see on this instrument, we can get it up to 30 to 50% more information. Not just that they are smaller, but also we can start to look at more characteristics, which are the markers that these EVs are expressing. And this is allowing us to know where they are coming from, the source of origin, and if they are expressing the tetraspanin, not expressing the tetraspanin, annexing, and other markers. So the good thing is that it's flexible. It means that we have different markers that we can analyze. And the set of the filters that we have here, as you can see nicely when you look at the specs of the instrument, they're really matching to most of the most common dyes that we're actually using in the analysis of EVs. And this is really nice. So on one side, how low we can go. On the other side, let's put markers, let's put colors to these particles. Let's see where they're coming from. So I think that this new one is helping us really to characterize or further characterize the EVs.
Yeah, I mean, I believe this is giving us that ability. As they like to say, right? Show me the data, right? So we do have data here that has been generated to show the use of those 6 fluorescence channels. You can use all 3 of the, you know, the conical markers, the tetraspanins, that are going to, you know, identify these extracellular vesicles. This data actually is from a platelet poor plasma from a self-proclaimed healthy donor out of a blood bank. And so able to look and prove that by showing these tetraspanins after isolating the EVs, and then adding your 235A to make sure there's no contaminants for anything that would be considered erythrocyte, or also something like I believe they added a 63, which will tell you about platelets. So by making sure that you have just an ability to look at all those, you can get deeper into these things. And so you get a little more, right? You're expanding what you can do. And so it's not just a one dye done, right? It's multiples. And again, I think we mentioned it before, right? And sometimes it's not putting all 6, it's just being able to do something. So if you find a protein of interest that only comes in one particular color, well, you have the ability to do that because you have 6 that you can go from.
So thank you, John, Matt, and Alfonso for walking us through the amazing capabilities of the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer. And thank you to our audience for staying with us. We're gonna continue to some question and answers. And the first one is for you, Matt.
All right.
Can the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer be used to analyze cells?
So the simplest answer is that the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer is purpose-built for the analysis of particles between 40 nanometers and 1 micron. And to do that, we had to make a lot of changes to the existing CytoFLEX platform in terms of optics and fluidics. So it's not really appropriate for cellular analysis. That doesn't take away from the power of the CytoFLEX platform. If you're looking for something that still offers you a lot of EV capability in terms of analysis, the CytoFLEX platform is still a great, instrument to use for that purpose.
Okay, the next question is for you, John. So how does the CytoFLEX Nano Flow Cytometer compare to the technologies you use today?
It adds a dimension, right, that we didn't have previously. So we're going and expanding that lower limit of detection, right? There's a lot of this talk of LOD, limit of detection. And so we've moved that bar much further than was expected. I mean, on most products, getting down to 100 nanometers consistently, biological, is amazing in itself. So to move that down into the 50 nanometer, 60 nanometer range just gives us a lot more capabilities. And I mean, we can't do it now, so who knows what we're going to be able to see and discover at this point. So, I like to say it all the time, we're in a discovery phase of science and when it comes to extracellular vesicles and nano. And so what we're actually able to do, I don't know if anybody really knows yet.
The next question is for you, Matt.
All right.
Why do we have 2 violet side scatters?
That's a great question, Laura. So we have 2 violet side scatters because we want to make sure that we preserve and maintain that critical dynamic range. We know that a lot of researchers are interested in those exosome particles, right? That 30 to 150 nanometer particle that we hear about. But there's a lot of science that happens between, 100 nanometers biological up to a micron. It's really kind of an open field of discovery, and the ability to not only detect those particles with certainty and with a great deal of precision and discretion between them in terms of their size, the ability to look at them through a very sensitive fluorescence lens is going to give us information that we've never had before. And it's probably too early to even tell you everything that we're going to discover with this tool, but we're really excited about what this is going to do for research in things like biotherapeutic, cell and gene therapy, and a variety of other disciplines.
The last question I have here, and that we have time for today, what would be your recommendation for people that are just getting started with nanoscale flow cytometry?
Usually we don't let individuals touch our instruments that are for EV purposes, because it takes so much to get them exactly aligned to, know that the data coming out is real. And so, as we've said, there's the clean, and make sure that your background is in the right place. Determine your limited detection. I think what we've done now is when BECKMAN COULTER's put together this CytoFLEX Nano, it started to put all those things in consideration. So having that fixed alignment, having an actual kind of syringe pump methodology that keeps everything very steady and gets you better data because you have a higher dwell time, and getting someone into this nano flow cytometry and having all these other automated processes, as we mentioned before, it's just going to make their life easier. And it's going to make my life easier because I don't have to sit in front of an instrument for 8 hours a day collecting data for people. and I'm gonna also feel a little more comfortable letting someone else touch my instrument, and I won't be, we use the word scared, right? I'm usually the scared one in this instance, and I'm not gonna be scared to have somebody, once they're trained, to use it. I mean, there's not a lot to touch, right? And so it's all computer-based, and it makes life easy. It should be easy to train them and easy to get them up and getting their experiments going.
That's great. Thank you so much. So thank you, John, Matt, for your time. Unfortunately, we don't have more time for questions, but we suggest that you add your questions to the comments at the bottom, and we will get back to you with some more answers. Thank you very much.